fiance was shot and killed on May 14th by a white supremacist mass shooter when he went into Tops to buy our son a birthday cake. The shooter killed my fiance with a Bushmaster X-15 rifle. He also had with him a 12-gauge shotgun, a bolt-action rifle, full body armor, and a car full of ammunition.
My name is Fred Guttenberg. I am the father of Jesse and Jamie Guttenberg. On February 14, 2018, I sent my 2 children to school to learn safely. Towards the end of that day, a gunman showed up at my daughter's school, killing 17. My daughter was one of the 17 killed.
Do you know how many children have been exposed to gun violence in schools since Columbine?
What are you going to do?
It's okay.
To make sure that your products don't get into the hands of a white supremacist mass shooter ever again, who will take a child's father away.
It's okay.
So families of the victims of mass shootings across the country were speaking at a House Oversight Committee as they debate whether or not they're going to do anything, I guess, further when it comes to the kinds of weapons that are in the hands of the kinds of people that want to do nothing but commit mass murder with them. Yeah, that's going to be a theme of the show today, because those families are going to be living that reality for the rest of their lives, wondering if anything else could have happened or if there's any other victims that they could have possibly been saved to not go through things they've gone through. It's the state of our country. Hate to bring you in like this, but Dan Evans joins me for these discussions today, you guys. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit down, but we're gonna do some other things as well, as usual on the watch list. Thank you, Dan, for joining me first of all. How you been, man?
Pleasure to join you. It is very rarely are there many good news stories in America, but we got to be informed about these because there's a fight coming up against all of these terrible things that Republicans are doing, and we have to be knowledgeable about it.
Dan Evans, of course, is the host, one of the hosts on Good Morning Bad News over on TikTok. So I think he understands what we're going through with these types of things, especially based off of the name of that show there. We might as well jump right into it, because this, again, I mentioned this House Oversight Committee is debating about our semi-automatic or automatic rifle problem in our country, and we already know where the two parties stand. Let's go ahead and jump straight into this, as a CEO from one of these companies that creates these weapons was actually testifying as well. Let's start here.
I want to talk to you about our DDM4 V7. This lightweight modular rifle would make a perfect addition to anybody's gun safe. This rifle comes in just over 6 pounds, which makes it extremely maneuverable and easy to move around barriers. Also, if you're out shooting all day, it's not extremely heavy. It's also going to come standard with Daniel Defense rubber overmolded furniture, which is extremely comfortable. Overall, the DDM4 V7 is a perfect rifle for anybody, from beginning shooters all the way up to the pros.
Their ad there from Daniel Defense, which makes the DDM4V7 rifle, showing off its features, its accessibility, how easy it is, how light it is, how easy it is to run around, use that weapon to fire on your targets in immediate, quick range. In fact, that particular gun was the one that the gunman down in Uvalde, who killed 21 folks in the school shooting back in May, used. Actually posted a receipt of his brand new Daniel Defense weapon. That might be the reason why the CEO of Daniel Defense, his name is Marty Daniel. He had to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee as they were debating these problems. Now, he had a back and forth exchange with Representative Raja Krishnamurthy. I want you guys to take a look at this back and forth about their marketing strategy, specifically in this ad that they posted on Twitter. Watch this insanity.
This tweet says, it's actually from March 2nd, depicting the Delta 5 Pro precision rifle. Your post reads, quote, "rooftop ready, even at midnight." Then a smiley face emoji follows that statement. Mr. Daniel, this is what your tweet says, correct?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
And the tweet shows what appears to be a night vision gun scope trained on a parked car at street level. Mr. Daniel, this tweet is not depicting anyone hunting for wildlife, is it?
No, sir.
And it's not depicting anyone acting in self-defense against someone attacking them, correct?
That remains in the eye of the viewer, sir.
I don't see anyone attacking somebody here.
Apparently posed on the top of a rooftop with a sniper rifle that has a scope that can fire upon a car. It's all depicted in that ad from Daniel Defense. And as he's asked about it, I guess the potential of that person on the rooftop by themselves at midnight, the way that that ad proposes this scenario to be, I mean, that's in the eyes of the viewer, whether or not they're a threat on top of that roof. But if we keep telling them that there's a threat coming towards them, they'll always feel that there's a threat that's on the horizon for them. Now, by the way, Krishnamurthy, the representative there, was talking about, and he actually connected, as everyone's thinking there, rooftop shooters. You're advertising for rooftop shooters? He explains further there.
Mr. Daniel, this advertisement appears to depict premeditated violence or murder from a rooftop. As you know, the Highland Park shooter in Illinois rained down bullets from a rooftop. 8-year-old Cooper Roberts was paralyzed from the waist down when he was shot from a rooftop, Mr. Daniel. 2-year-old Aiden McCarthy was orphaned when both of his parents were murdered when they were shot from a rooftop. Sir, this tweet appears to suggest a planned murder, and I would respectfully ask authorities and law enforcement to see whether this particular advertisement is even legal.
If it's even legal, because it seems to be creating a scenario of the best way you can use their weapons to murder people. Dan, there's a lot more that came from Daniel Defense from back in May when one particular Twitter user exposed a lot of their marketing strategies. But first, get your thoughts on this back and forth exchange.
Yeah, I gotta put some respect back on the Daniel name here because this man is disgusting. No, yeah. I am very glad here. You know, Congress isn't always doing great things. You don't often get good clips out of Congress. There are some Congress clips you can pick from this past week that are pretty terrible. But I like this because we need to constantly get at the real motivation behind not just the gun manufacturers, but the people who are putting them in, who are making the money by buying these weapons. The gun manufacturers know who they're advertising to. They're not advertising to hunters. They're advertising to people with deranged fantasies of shooting people, of killing people. They say it's under the guise of defense or, protect my family or to protect my property or whatever. But this is an offensive move. You're usually moving backwards from people who are kind of coming to attack you. So if it's a defensive weapon, you demonstrate that kind of mechanism. But no, he's talking about this like, hey, I'm in a field right now. I'm in a urban war environment, basically practicing with some tires. Just because defense is in the name, let's make this clear what he's doing. You can see it there in this video. We need to get at why we are advertising towards a mentality that is directly leading to mass shootings. You saw that, like the mass shooting killer in Uvalde used this weapon. So we need to be careful about how we're doing advertising in this country. And we need to be, as lawmakers, congressional people who are making these laws, need to bring the hammer down on what you can do for gun advertising. People in other countries already see how we advertise pharmaceutical drugs and things like that, and they're shocked. But I think if they started to see some of our gun advertisements, it's hard to get shocked by America, but this is some sickening stuff.
You're talking about the advertising and the marketing strategy. So really fast, I'm gonna go through this because Nick Suplina, back in May, a day after this shooting happened, and after that shooter used this particular weapon from this maker, he went through the multiple Twitter, an extensive Twitter thread about the marketing strategies for this company. Let's go to these tweets because it was devastating, and I'm not sure if more people have seen this. First, he tweeted this out. Daniel Defense is a Georgia-based gun manufacturer that specializes in AR platform weapons. Just 8 days before the attack, the company posted a picture of a young child holding one of its AR-15s. Note this caption that reads, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it," as you place a huge gun on your 2 to 3 year old's lap, because that's the way he should go. Next tweet from Nick. The Uvalde shooter brought a Daniel Defense DD M4V7 rifle and reportedly wore a plate carrier, just like Daniel Defense advertised hours before the shooting. This is how you can run up into a place and fire among folks and have an entire police force wait outside afraid. It worked. Next, And they've admitted that mass shootings are key to their profits and sales. Now, read this back and forth that they did post also, because this is from Daniel Defense CEO, again, Marty Daniel, after the Sandy Hook shooting, and this is via Forbes. Adams asks him, why were your sales up in 2013 and down in 2014? Daniel says, the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary in 2012 drove a lot of sales. That was a horrible event, and we don't use those kinds of terrible things to drive sales. But when people see politicians start talking about gun control, they have this fear and they go out and buy guns. Think about that whole statement he made. We're not pushing it, but politicians push it, and then we make more money. After it dies down, our sales go down. Remember that, because it's not their fault, right? It's those politicians that keep telling constituents that they need to run and hide and hoard their guns because the Dems are coming for it. Politicians. Let's look at this next tweet from Nick Suplina. Surprising to no one, the owners of Daniel Defense are big-time far-right GOP donors. Those same politicians that he says, oh, they're always ramping up all of this, they're coming for your guns rhetoric, and then we make more money. It's almost like you support the people that do the thing that you said you're not doing. It's a nice roundabout way to be a part of the process and make your money and then somehow shed that responsibility. Here's another one. Daniel Defense is a proud NRA fundraiser, sponsor, and supporter. The company's CEO, Marty Daniel, and his wife even established their own Friends of NRA chapter. Here she is donating NRA money to a high school shooting team because they're making sure that future customers are primed, ready, and love this company. And when they're ready to start shooting and buying more weapons, I guess at 18 years old, days after turning that age, you can go ahead and purchase your weapon and do as you wish. Maybe get on a rooftop. Let's go to this next story. Sorry to not let you in there back, Dan, but I think the way that Nick Suplina broke that all down is flawless.
You can't fight that. You can't fight that.
Straight up. Next story, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh. Watch out, watch out, watch out. Oh my God. Oh my God. Watch out. Are you okay?
No, you shot me.
Oh God. Are you okay?
No, man. Ah.
Echo 7, 1081.
Ah. Oh my God.
Apologies to not give you guys that warning there. There's police officers there in Knoxville, Tennessee, that apparently were looking to serve an outstanding a warrant for someone, and they found themselves in someone's backyard. A dog runs out and attacks one of the officers. Jordan Hurst is the officer that went to shooting there, shot his partner, if you couldn't tell from that footage there. But there's more footage. There's body cam footage also from her perspective, that particular officer who was shot, Lydia Driver. Let's look at from her perspective of that same event.
Sound good. Charlie 21.
Hey, what you got?
Shoot my dog, he's a friendly dog. God damn. Man, what's going on?
Yeah, 647 on Brickyard. Yeah, the officer's been attacked by a pit bull.
She's trying to put the dog in the kennel. She was trying to put the dog in the kennel.
Are you on in?
Yeah.
Oh. Crosby! Crosby! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Watch out.
Ah!
Are you okay?
No, you shot me!
Oh God. Are you okay?
No, man! Oh.
That's a pretty horrific scene. Again, as you saw, it was nighttime, there's flashlights, and then gunshots go off. Let's go to some details of what happened. Let's jump down to this first graph for you guys. So Lydia Driver there, who was shot, was taken to the University of Tennessee Medical Center for emergency surgery. Sheriff Tom Spangler said she was recovering in the intensive care unit until she was released on July 9th. Now, she's begun her rehabilitation process. That's what officials were talking about. So Hurst, the man who shot, was put on administrative leave as per procedure states. So during an investigation conducted by the Office of Professional Standards, officials came to the determination that no general orders were violated during the incident, is what the investigation documents then noted. The dog that attacked Driver was taken into animal custody, control custody, and remains at the animal center there as well. So they were there serving a warrant, Dan, and they found themselves in the backyard, and I guess a guard dog ran up on her, and as you saw, what went down.
This is what happens when you bring people with guns to solve pretty much every single emergency situation in this country. I've been reading on social media that there are a number of different ways you can deal with animals who are attacking people without guns. I think there's like a hind leg procedure or whatever, but like this goes to show how, like, I don't know how you train out of the situation. I don't know how you convince a police officer, hey, maybe you shouldn't in a situation where it's dark and the dog is lashing around, your partner is lashing around. Don't aim your gun at them. Like I wince at the moment where you see like the aim of the gun really close to where the officer's like upper body is, because that's. I took gun safety. I know that's like a situation you don't even want to even think about like seeing. So I winced at that. But the fact that you see cops, this isn't like a unusual situation. Unfortunately, cops are shooting their partners. They're shooting the people they're not supposed to be shooting all the time, because you're constantly putting cops in a situation where they have a gun to hammer and nail, so to speak. It's the wrong tool, and you see this is another example.
And let's keep it real, they're afraid. When things come out and pop out in front of them, like, I was a fear for my life. And that's a valid excuse, it's reasons why they do things like this. And then you shoot your partner in the process. Again, like you said, I think you mentioned it, maybe you don't know exactly the form in which we can change this procedure, but it's pretty obvious this our current approach doesn't seem to be working, from innocent bystanders to also fellow police officers. I guess from what I could tell from the article, the dog apparently was okay. And for some reason, his flashlight he decided to turn off his flashlight before he got to shooting. I don't know.
To me, it looked like the video may have been like edited out to not show the exact moment of the shooting. But like, I really can't tell from there. To me, it's just a dumb thing.
Let's jump through one more story, you guys, before we go to this break, because Donald Trump has some amazing plans with his big brain.
All kinds, from all places, lying along the roads. That's without the tents. And then you look at the tents and the homeless, and you say, what's happening to this great bastion? Perhaps some people will not like hearing this, but the only way you're going to remove the hundreds of thousands of people, and maybe throughout our nation, millions of people we're talking about, and help make our cities clean, safe, and beautiful again, is to open up large parcels of inexpensive land in the outer reaches of the cities.
Donald Trump is coming up with solutions, you guys. He's got a solution to the homeless problem in America. It only took him his entire life to say something about it that he doesn't actually care about. As long as you can buy the gold coins that pop up next to you on Newsmax, and everything is fine while you learn about the homeless problem. Anyways, from what you heard there, tents, maybe we can pop up and just have a full-on slum city, because that's what works in America with the homeless problem, because that's really just the basis, the problem, and then the solution is all right there. They don't have enough nice tents available. Actually, let's let him explain that part.
Is open up large parcels of inexpensive land in the outer reaches of the cities, bring medical professionals, including doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, drug rehab specialists, build permanent bathrooms and other facilities, make them good, make them hard, but build them fast, and create thousands and thousands of high quality tents, which can be done in one day. And you have to move people out. Now, some people say, oh, that's so horrible. No, what's horrible is what's happening now, because now they're in tents, but most of them aren't even tents that function.
We need functionable tents, large, nice, luxurious tents. Put them in one particular part of the city and block off and barricade them and keep them there where they're nice and happy. As long as there's people that run in that are doctors and facilitators and bathrooms, all these things. Let's just set up an entire city. Weird, because we've got one of those in LA, and I'm sure they're in other cities as well. We call it Skid Row. Here, let's take a look at what Skid Row looks like while I tell you guys about it. About 5,000 people are concentrated on this 50 blocks of Skid Row, which is a little over half of whom are in shelters or temporary housing. The rest sleep rough in Los Angeles. More than a third suffer from a substance use disorder, and many are mentally ill or physically disabled. The area is squalid. LA provides around 50,000 shelter beds for a steadily increasing homeless population of more than 60,000. And according to the LA Homeless Services Authority, an average of 207 people exit homelessness every day, while an average of 227 become homeless. Now, I'm showing you guys Skid Row here because, again, that's in Los Angeles and people have heard about this, but I'm not sure if many people have seen it, and also why it's there and how it operates. Because there was a 1975 document that was called the Containment Plan. Not the 2022 containment plan that Donald Trump just floated, but from 1975. Here's a piece of that. It said, if, however, there was restrooms, benches, and pleasant open spaces within the contained area of Skid Row, does that sound familiar, what we just heard? The residents might be inclined to confine their activities to the immediate area. That section would serve as a magnet to hold undesirable population elements in Skid Row. Not against their will, but of their own accord, is what this proposal suggested in 1975, and look, it's a reality, Dan.
What Donald Trump is proposing there is one of the most American things I've ever heard, because I think about healthcare, which homelessness is a healthcare issue. I think about the economy, which homelessness is an economic issue. And when I see all these things, I see the American solution is to see the gaping, gushing, bleeding wound and to put a Band-Aid on it and be like, yeah, we're all good. Like if from the 70s all the way to 2022, the idea is, no, we'll give them nice bathrooms, we'll give them nice beds and services, move them to the outskirts of town and let them do with what they may. When in reality is, you have to look at why people are unhoused, why people are in these situations where they're struggling to make ends meet, where the remaining money they do have on like food or water, whatever, they fall into drug habits and they aren't in a situation where they're able to work on their mental health issues, because we have a society that says if you don't have a job or you aren't able to keep a job, you are on your own and left to die.
And we need to get rid of you.
Exactly. We need to deal with those aspects of our society, from guaranteed housing down to making sure people have employment, down to the things that Trump is pretending to care about, like making sure that we have proper mental health services, and not just things like, gold-plated tents from Donald Trump's presumably friends, where if he would get elected, he'd have some tent company his friend does, and he'd make a buck off of that, and then do all that other usual Trump shit he does. Sorry.
Yeah, these politicians, they know how to make sure they solve the problems for the folks who pay for them to be there, but they don't know how to solve the problems for folks that they don't care about, because who cares? Let's just get them out of our sight. How many times can you get folks out of your sight before they keep popping up in your sight? Because there's a society thing we've got going on here. But as long as they're pushed out of your sight for long enough, you can feel better about yourself. Or maybe the right folks' sight. Let's get them out of our neighborhoods and into that neighborhood. That's the way this works. Go on your neighborhood app. You're gonna find a lot of people, when they get frustrated by any crime or homelessness or people digging through their belongings outside, they go, when are they gonna move these people out of here? They don't care where, just move them, because they're just pieces. Let's take our first break, you guys. When we come back, we got hypocritical politicians that vote against something that they celebrate in private. That's not a surprise. Let's do that when we come back.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody.
This is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right. They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care. You don't see a lot of news coverage in the mainstream media of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests that happened throughout the country.
Black Americans are hurting. Minorities in this country are hurting.
We always talk about starting from the bottom up, but the problem is the bottom up is always the least amount of power. No one cares about them, and until someone actually cares about them, then we'll do something about it.
Please, for God's sake, America, understand, acknowledge, and work towards getting to a new reality where Black lives actually matter.
Back on the watch list really quick, you guys. Fine, let's go with Twitch, you guys. Twitch. Thank you guys for being there with us. Tridora says, I can finally watch the watch this live. And cool, I always see Dan on Rebel HQ. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Dan.
Pleasure.
How do you say your last name again?
Oh God, full Evans Nakamura, but I just chill with Evans. It's all good.
Dissident PM says, JR and Dan, don't apologize, JR. We need to keep this feeling raw, so we just don't move on. Very true. McBain, AKA Icy Blue Dragon, says, on a sarcastic note, advertising to this is about the original story. Advertising to mass shooters means not advertising to return customers. So where's the logic in that? More serious, advertising to mass shooters is anti-human, disgusting malice. Daniel Defense is a total misnomer. Go out of business. We'll see what happens because they're probably facing some lawsuits as well. Let's jump to this next story, you guys, since we're talking about politicians and folding and all that fun stuff. Here's a hypocritical one for you.
We've been fortunate with 3 sons and done a great job of adding to the family. Every kid showed up through cesarean section, so it wasn't all pleasant, right? So this has been a really good experience. I think new son into the family. So we're just blessed, and we just want to say thank you, and everyone's here as part of the celebration.
That joyous celebration, you heard a bit of audio there, was from Republican Representative Glenn Thompson of Pennsylvania. He was at his son's wedding. It's a beautiful event, welcoming a new member of the family. It's a same-sex marriage, actually. So he was welcoming a new son into the family. It's a beautiful, joyous event. As you heard, people are laughing, applauding, jokes are being made. There's one twist to this because Representative Thompson, just 3 days before this, voted against a bill that would codify same-sex marriage into law. Weird how that works. By the way, in case you couldn't tell exactly what he was saying, let's go to graphic 2 first, you guys. I want to let you guys know what was said in a little bit of that muffled audio. He goes, we've been fortunate with 3 sons, and that one particular son's done a great job of adding to the family. Every kid showed up through cesarean section, so it wasn't all pleasant, right? So this has been a really good experience, especially for Penny. So to have a new son enter the family. So we're just blessed, and we just want to say thank you to everyone here as part of the celebration. They're blessed. They're blessed because these Christians are blessed to have a new son in the family by marriage to their son. But 3 days before that, he's voting against anyone else having that right because that's a disaster. Let's go to some more details because he was just one of them 157 Republicans who actually don't care about this issue when it comes to their personal lives, but they definitely do when it comes to their political lives because those 2 things are absolutely separate. So this was first reported by Gawker and BuzzFeed News. They leaked that audio of his speech. BuzzFeed News can report, by the way, in case you guys wondered if this was fake, that Thompson not only attended the event, but he delivered a speech to celebrate these nuptials, which he called a really good experience. Media of the speech was provided to BuzzFeed News by a guest who asked to remain anonymous for obvious reasons. Now, of course, that's BuzzFeed and those guys talking about how valid it is. What about Thompson himself? His press secretary, Madison Stone, also confirmed that the congressman was in attendance there. Congressman and Mrs. Thompson, this is the statement after all of this, knowing who he is. And Mrs. Thompson were thrilled to attend and celebrate their son's marriage on Friday night as he began his new chapter in his life. Stone said this in an email, adding that Thompsons are very happy to welcome their new son-in-law into the family, reiterating exactly what we heard there. That's crazy, huh? Because his press secretary also disparaged this bill that he voted against in allowing more people to do what his son is allowed to do. That Democrats are simply trying to do this for political purposes. Weird how that gets flipped. In an email last week to the local newspaper Center Daily, Stone called the Respect for Marriage Act nothing more than an election year messaging stunt for Democrats in Congress who have failed to address historic inflation, of course, and out of control prices at gas pumps and grocery stores. La 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 la. Same old stuff. But this is what we're talking about when it came to as they're stealing people's rights away. And we go, look, the rich and powerful will still have access to these things, and they will take it and put it right in your face and go, yes, my mistress and my daughter and then my wife, all three got abortions, but I'm still voting against anyone else having that right. This is the way these things work. In this case, it's let's not codify same-sex marriage. Who's coming for that? Except for a Supreme Court justice who said that they would like to come for that. But you guys are just hyperventilating when you see reality in front of your face. Who's gonna start believing these people as they tell you who they are, Dan?
Yeah, if this House Representative Glenn Thomas, if he's at his son's wedding and is lying to his entire family and his son-in-law's family and everyone involved that he's happy about this marriage, that's a joyous occasion, that he loves everything, then that makes him a despicable person, tells a lot about his character. But if he's going to Congress and passing all of these, typical Republican, I'm bashing LGBTQ plus people, I'm making this big ado about nothing with the economy. I mean, the economy is a big deal right now, but it's a very partisan thing they're trying to bend, where even if the economy was doing well, they would find some way to tie it against Joe Biden. But when you see that and you see how they behave out in Congress, it should disqualify them from office, because you're very clearly seeing how much they're lying to their base to get votes. I can stoke up my base and get votes by Biden sucks doing this, we hate gay people, all that. But look and see how he lives his life. Either his voters should be upset that that they are being lied to constantly, or everyone in his personal life should be upset that he's an enormous hypocrite and just a terrible human being.
All these words, and I mentioned how he said they're blessed, which again, you Christians generally say things like that they're blessed from this event. So these other Christians that are Donald Trump supporters and Republican supporters in general, these Christians should be upset by him using these terms when it comes to such a despicable act as a same-sex marriage, right? Or is it that you're using Christianity so you can pursue your actual religion, which is Donald Trump and the Republican Party? It's a catalyst to your BS. And I mean, I guess the veils come off, but they don't care anymore. It's a matter, they've already got them. They've already understood that no matter what they say or do, these followers will be like, I don't care. Logic means what? But are you still trying to own the Dems? Are those woke people upset? That's the actual religion of folks that follow this when they say they're Christians. So I guess you'll continue to think that's the situation. Here's someone else that's a hypocrite, but he's been put on blast, and somehow he hasn't seen that yet. Josh Hawley.
They showed him running, a video of him running from the rioters when they breached the Capitol as the senators were getting into a secure location. So we caught up with him today about all of that, and he made clear that he was not, he contended that this was trolling, and he was defiant in his response. The January 6th committee said that they talked to a Capitol police officer who said when you made that fist pump, you riled up the crowd. Do you regret that fist pump because of that?
No, I don't. I don't regret anything I did on that day. And, it's a privilege to be attacked by the January 6th committee. And I want to say thank you for all the help with my fundraising. It's been tremendous.
But what about the video? The fact that they did release that video and showed you running. I mean, what was your reaction to that?
Oh, Mark, this is just an attempt to troll. And listen, I don't regret anything I did on that day. And the reason I'm being attacked by the January 6th committee is because I'm in their way. And the stand that I took is one that I don't regret and one that I won't back down from.
Josh Hawley finally had the opportunity to answer for his running video that completely went viral, and everyone, I assume, saw his true character from January 6th, from the beginning of the day to the back end of it. So Manu Raju of CNN asked him a few questions, but there was another side reporter, because I was frustrated about how Manu didn't ask him, who were you running from, or why were you running from your supporters? Another person did ask him, that's when he went with the trolling line. So I guess trolling is a thing that I guess the January 6th hearing and committee is engaging in. That's all it is, because I'm Josh Hawley. But they did get a pretty good laugh out of it. I can watch this over and over and over again. Let's see that again. Josh Hawley also, again, taking off the veil, because who cares anymore? Did you guys hear that part from the beginning when he said, well, anytime you're attacked by the January 6th hearing, at least it helps with my fundraising. So We're talking about an insurrection on the Capitol, but you guys want to keep talking about inflation and gas prices and prices at the grocery store and all these things that you're actually blocking any kind of remedies towards, so you can continue to complain about those things, while at the same time blatantly and openly talking to CNN, because you know it's going to get broadcast, about how this whole thing is helping your fundraising. How about the folks who died from injuries on that day? Does that help with your fundraising too, Josh? They don't care. Blatant and open hatred towards anyone else. Maybe we'll start paying attention. Let's go to more of that fundraising and money that Josh Hawley's trying to make off this, because he tweeted this out a few days ago. The Show Me Strong white coffee mug. Show me strong. Of course, he's from Missouri, and then their motto is the Show Me State. And he's still using that same fist pump as if that wasn't the prequel to his running. Someone else tweeted in response to that. Diedrich Bader said, needs a lid for when you're on the run, 100% there. Also, we talked about the laughing that happened within the committee. It's not just there, it's in other places as well. Here's some headlines from publications in his home state. Fist pumper to fleeing coward. January 6th video shows Missouri who Josh Hawley really is. Even more fun, Missouri Democrats started this fundraiser about his running, his tendency to run, and they started this 5K run. The Missouri Democratic Party is presenting the Hawley 5K run. Oh man, it still might be going to July 25th through the 31st. Yeah, today's only the 28th. So looking good. You can still join in on that because he can't run by himself. Missouri Democrats also tweeted this out. We hear the calls for race merch, new friends with the running man. In the meantime, we do have the running coward design already up, and the design predecessor is still quite accurate. So I guess if you really want some real mugs and pins, that's the right insignia to put on it. Josh Hawley is a piece of garbage. Again, I need people to understand who he really is. And this isn't just a funny thing, which it is. But then also let's realize this is how he's gonna translate into his legislation, into how he actually carries himself in office. And do you really want somebody that's this dishonest? And then the number one thing he thinks about, Dan, is my fundraising. Thank you for my fundraising.
Anytime Josh Hawley is advocating for increasing police budgets or anything that's pro-police, saying we need to make sure that blue lives matter, all the different things. Remember that he fundraised off of January 6th, where all the blue lives matter support the police people ended up nearly killing police officers. But remember that. Josh Hawley loves, oh yes, I can fundraise off of when the police were killed and when they were completely disregarded so that they could overturn the democratically chosen election. Like, Josh Hawley is such a tool, but he tries to act like a man of the people. I'm glad the Democratic Party, or at least the Missouri Democratic Party, is doing things like what they're just like trolling other Republican candidates. Have fun, make them laugh. Same with what's happening in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz and that like Snooki video. I love it. Make fun of these people. Make fun of how ridiculous they are, that you can't take them seriously, but then also fight them on the serious issues, because this is important. Josh Hawley is a dangerous figure.
There needs to be a certain approach. I like that. You have to, not to make fun of them for the sake of making fun of them. Look, John Fetterman out in Pennsylvania is doing it in a certain way with inventive ways to highlight the things that we like to skip over. We'll see something, go, oh yeah, Dr. Oz is this, and that. And then by tomorrow, we forgot that he was those three things. Repeat it, put it out there, and do it in ways that other folks who may not have the time or energy to pay attention to the madness that is our political process. Let them know what it is people are doing, because then they'll see Donald Trump talking, oh yeah, that's our guy, when they hear only 5 things that he says and don't understand who he really is. I know, because we're the wonks. We're a little bit too engulfed in this whole thing, but there's so many people who don't have the time and energy to really be deep down and involved with this. You think people in, I don't know, Florida who don't pay attention to the political process care or know who Josh Hawley is? But he's doing things like this, but I guarantee they heard about January 6th. And depending on what they've been watching and reading, they've probably been hearing a skewed version or the reality. Let's make sure that they see the reality and who the politicians are and what their real beliefs are from that day, as they talk about how it was just a walk in the park and our people, no, not our people, but Antifa, but BLM, but let's just keep shifting that the culprit in that. Let's get off of politics for a second, you guys. I think this is fascinating. And I'm really curious. This is one of the things I want to get the audience to let me know if you would live in such a place, such a civilization as this one.
For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint. designing to protect and enhance nature. The line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions. Residents have access to all their daily needs within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. And the line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end to end in 20 minutes with no need for cars, resulting in 0 carbon emissions. By leveraging AI technology, services are autonomous, saving you time and effort.
It's a wave of the future. It's the line. The Saudi Arabian government is unveiling these new plans for this civilization that's consolidated, good on the environment, AI, totally automated. It's the line. No need for cars or buses or any of that stuff. It's amazing. Let's watch them explain more. Before you get to pushing back on this, let's let them explain more.
Designed by world-leading architects, the line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. Intelligent solutions create efficiency and year-round temperate microclimate with natural ventilation. Energy and water supplies are 100% renewable. The line is designed as a series of unique communities, offering a wealth of amenities, providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature. With 40% of the world accessible within 6 hours, at the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive like nothing on earth seen before. The line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
We're gonna get to more details of the line and the new civilization process for humans. But first, Dan, I saw the look on your face. I was gonna get to details, but I gotta get to you.
This rocks.
You gonna like, are you moving?
I'm drawing the line. How about this? I'm gonna draw the line here. I love that they are beginning this video saying, listen, humanity is unstable. We can't keep building these cities. They're talking about trying to make it more sustainable to live in the desert. Like, I'm sorry, I just can't take a lot of these things seriously, but like bigger picture, there's a thing that's happened in the tech world, and I've gotten into this for like a documentary project I'm working on, but they love, Elon Musk especially, loves to make these video concepts of this is what things could be in the future. What if we had robots implanting your brain? And it's like pornography for a type of like science nerd. Like it's stuff like junkies really love watching this stuff. Like, what about this idea? What about these big ideas that we could have? And it blends into environmentalism, urbanism, getting rid of cars. So leftists can be kind of like tricked by this too. But you have to remember, they're trying to make the desert sustainable. They're trying to make places where people shouldn't be living at these densities sustainable. And so a lot of this is just like to excite people in a big tech sense, but I also worry about planes just like flying through the glass. Like, what is going on? I love it.
About as tall as they said about Empire State Building. I can't remember which buildings they used as examples for the height. So I mean, the mirrored glass. I guess you have to start figuring these things out. A few more details, because you're just poo-pooing all over this, Dan. This construction has already begun. As you're talking about these flights, these plans for future that they're not really doing, Dan. This construction has already begun, and Saudi projects call for 1.5 million people to live in the line by 2030. About 7.5 years from now. 7.5 years, you ready? The unconventional mega city is part of the government's ambitious NEOM development project, which released conceptual videos showing the city's high walls enclosing trees, gardens, and other plant life, nestling communities among work and recreational structures. NEOM is led by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, you've heard about that guy, who aims to diversify the kingdom's economy and help it respond to climate change. I knew that was gonna be a part of it. Is a response. This is where environmentalists come in. The project is bankrolled by the government's public investment fund. Now, these designs revealed today for the city's vertically layered communities will challenge the traditional flat horizontal cities and create a model for nature preservation and enhanced human livability. That's what bin Salman said on Monday. I think there's gonna be a certain amount of people that would be willing to. I mean, there's people that want to go to Mars and live there too and create some kind of society in a place where humans generally can't live. So as we destroy our climate, we're gonna have to do that here first, right? But again, imagine how much it's gonna be to probably live in these types of communities, in this type of situation, if it's able to get off the ground. Because I want you guys, I don't have time to go to it, but go back to those islands. I looked them up. They were called the islands off the coast of, where was it, Dan? I know you know about this. Of the United Arab Emirates. This was like 2 decades ago they planned this. I do not remember it being that long ago. It's out in Dubai, and there's a bunch of issues with it. I want you guys to read up on it, but there's these new developments. Maybe you have to just have a full plan. You have a thought?
Yeah, people may remember the NEOM project because it's a lot of things the Saudi Arabian government's trying to do. But just to ground you in how ridiculous this is, part of NEOM is developing another moon. So don't feel like you need to go to the Mars. Don't feel like you need to go to Mars or space or anything like that. We have it right here. They're gonna build us a moon, dog. We are good. No, like I love these big ideas, but I'd like some, real ideas, some things we can actually apply right now. Because, okay, mark my words, Jayar, I'll bet you $500 today. Producers, write this down. $500. This city's not built by 2030. The city is a concept that like a couple people live in, where like the sewage is already leaking. There's massive wealth inequality, and like everything's breaking. If it exists, even as a demo unit by 2030, but you don't even have to pay me back if it doesn't happen. I just guarantee you, it's not gonna happen.
Leave it to a Berkeley guy to talk about. I'm gonna ground you guys in some reality real quick. And so when someone says something like that, you're like, oh man, I think I just messed up. There's something definitely that I'm missing here. So I fine, okay, fine. I won't move there, okay?
Never gonna happen. I love it though, good idea, good. Yeah. We should be thinking about these things to solve climate change, but never gonna happen.
Yeah. We started the show today talking about the devastation of gun violence and those manufacturers, but there's been some fallout. I mean, this is some of the results of that, but also one of these culprits from one of these school shooters is facing sentencing. We're talking about Parkland. Let's go to some of the things that are happening. First of all, warning again, there's gonna be audio and video of some of the devastation that happened that day back in 2018. So here we go.
Is that the door to the classroom there?
Yes.
Hey, look straight, look straight.
Look straight, look straight. I'm not trying to secure it.
Right behind this classroom. Come on, guys, you guys are okay.
Some horrific sounds from that day at Parkland High School there, where Nicholas Cruz, as you saw from the beginning of that video there, plugging his ears because he didn't want to hear the sounds of the atrocities that he committed on that day. He's there in his sentencing trial or hearing currently as they talk about all this. So they're going through some of the things that happened. More details. As the sentencing trial for Parkland school gunman Nicholas Cruz continues as they go on throughout this week. Cruz, who pleaded guilty to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder last October, is facing life in prison without parole or the death penalty. That's what they're trying to determine now. Now, last week, the jury heard from a number of witnesses, including students and teachers who were in the 1200 building of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School on the day of the attack, and survivors who were also injured. Also taking the stand were law enforcement officers who were the first on the scene and the medical examiner who performed autopsies on several of those who died. Again, think about the horrific nature of that scene and the trauma that those folks who had to see it, experience it, and try to help also went through. All of this because of this one gunman. Now, some of the family members did have to walk out as they heard this, so understand that as we listen to more that happened in this hearing. So again, another trigger warning there for you guys. Let's watch more. It's hard to hear, it's hard to experience, it's also hard to watch victims and families of these victims have to sit and relive what maybe they didn't hear before. But you know what, it's one of those things that I think needs to be, for certain people, no, everyone does need to hear that. It's absolutely not necessary, but the people who continue to drag their feet, do nothing about it, and actually write it off as small things and just something that happens in America. The people who don't experience this type of gun violence probably have some cartoonish view in their head of what it sounds and looks like for things like this when people have these types of weapons in their hands. It's horrific. Now, I've never seen or heard either, but I've heard people describe it, and it's disgusting. Before we go to some of the details that talk about how they're trying to get him off his defense, of course, trying to get him some kind of lesser sentence here from all of this horrific stuff that we're hearing. First, Dan, your thoughts, man?
Yeah, there's so much here, and it's graphic, it's terrible, but I think people who think that, oh, guns are just for hunting, and when you shoot people, it's like in Call of Duty, when you respawn in 10 seconds or so. Like, they need to understand, like, the last moments of human life are terrifying. It's terrible. It's it hurts to see, and to know these are young kids, their parents, seeing some of the survivors or the victims' families of the shooting in the courtroom. It just brings anything to your heart. But I think on that, like, we need to continue to make it clear that there are real life consequences to guns, because people seem to not believe that, or people seem to not care because they're politicians who still feel comfortable in spreading all of this pro-gun rhetoric. But in addition to that, one thing that stuck out to me in this case is how there's a kind of divide between Parkland survivors and just everyone who was involved in that onto whether or not the death penalty should be pushed for. And look, this is a case where you have the guy in the room caught red-handed. You know he killed and attempted to kill all these different many people. This would seem to be like the best case for the death penalty possible. It's not like where the government is trying to, the government might accidentally get the wrong person. But I ask people who are like in that position, who are rightfully angry and want to see justice done, is that putting that guy on death row, what does that do to bring any of the children who were killed back? What does that do to heal what the families have done, have the pain that they've gone through and will continue to go through? What does that do to deter other mass shooters? Absolutely nothing. So I'm not for giving this guy the death penalty. I am for this guy seeing justice, and I am for a country and the American public doing these families justice by actually making a difference on gun control and gun reform, rather than this silly little game that we play and entertain every 20 to 30 days when we decide that a mass shooting is worth making news.
Yeah, I mean, the reasons for running these types of sounds again is for this impact, basically statements and moments in the courtroom, so they can be determined how serious of a thing this is. That's the purpose. And again, politicians need to be the ones that get this impact statement, because they're part of this process and part of this problem. So maybe they're maybe in agreement with some of these defense tactics from Cruz's defense, because this is what they want to do to try and lighten this sentence a bit. Wednesday's testimony ended with a Broward County Sheriff's Office detective, sorry, this is graphic 3, you guys. Detective detailing social media posts and searches made by Cruz leading up to the shootings at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. A day before the shootings, Cruz searched online for how long does it take a cop to show up to a school shooting. The postings began on August 30th of 17 with Cruz writing, "I plan on shooting them soon. Year 2020, date of massacre unknown, location unknown, somewhere in Florida. I'm gonna be a professional school shooter," he also posted on September 24th of 2017. 4 days later, he wrote, "My life sucks. I failed high school. I'm going on a killing rampage." Every single post and search covering 20 pages was read aloud to the jury by BSO Detective Nicholas Masters, who uncovered this evidence. He also praised the Columbine high school shooters as well, because again, these guys become heroes for other folks who want to carry out those things as well. And so on the back end of it, we ignore that and allow the continuous sale and accessibility for these types of guns and say law-abiding gun owners actually do things the right way. All of these shooters, damn near all of them, were law-abiding gun owners right before they started murdering people. Then they became criminal gun owners, but at that point, all those people being murdered are already dead. And then we move on to the next, and into the next, and into the next. I'm sure any of these politicians that aren't gonna do anything about it or think that this, we're talking about law-abiding gun ownership, these same politicians are probably going, "This is a horrific trial. I can't believe that they would go this way. Look at this horrific person." You're encouraging more of it. From the gun manufacturers to the politicians, you're encouraging this type of behavior, and you act like you're not a part of the process. Society has to start holding them to account. Or we just don't care that our kids keep getting killed. Sorry to end the Thursday show on such a negative note, Dan, but thank you for joining me here for another watch list episode, you guys. Maybe we'll have something fun to talk about tomorrow on a Friday show. Hopefully, as long as you guys come back, though.
As long as we make fun of Josh Hawley, that was fun.
Absolutely. I mean, we can do that every day. So thank you again, Dan. Thank you guys for being here. Up next, John Adderall with the Damage Report. Go check him out. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a big Friday show. See you.